Good day, everyone. Today we will be discussing a very important and relevant topic entitled Racist Beliefs and Actions Are Common in Greek Schools. This lesson is part of reinforcing human rights, countering radicalization, and extremism. Throughout our discussion, we will explore how racism develops, how it affects individual society, and how media literacy can help us recognize and challenge prejudice and discrimination. Before we begin discussing the concepts, let us first watch a short video. The video you're about to see features children participating in what is known as the doll test. In these experiments, children are shown both white dolls and black dolls and are asked which doll they think is nicer, smarter, or better. As you watch, pay attention to the children's responses and think about what these answers reveal about the messages children may absorb from society. Slide, please.
Quale è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva? Quale è buona?
Lei.
Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più? Quale bambola è nera?
Mi ho offeso. Tu. Perché mi hai chiamato nero? Ti offendi perché altri bambini mi hanno offeso con cattiveria.
E non ho usato le spade.
Ma lo sto mi sta guardando sotto.
The video we just watched is both simple and powerful. Many of the children chose the white doll when asked which doll was prettier, better, or nicer. What makes this significant is that these preferences were often expressed by very young children, and those children weren't even half our age. This demonstrates that racial bias is not something people are born with. Rather, it is learned through exposure to society, culture, media, and the attitudes of those around us. The doll test reveals how stereotypes and prejudice can influence people's perception from an early age. Next slide, please. This is one reason why reinforcing human rights and countering extremism are important. If discrimination and prejudice can be learned, then understanding, respect, and acceptance can also be taught. Next slide, please. So to give us an overview of today's lesson, we will have racism in contemporary Greece, The article explains that Greece has experienced increasing concerns regarding racism and discrimination, particularly in schools and public discourse. While Greece has a long and rich cultural history, modern and social political challenges have contributed to the spread of prejudice and against certain groups. Next slide, please. One important concept that helps explain racism is the idea of us versus them. In general context, us versus them refers to the legendary tendency of people to divide society into groups. Us refers to people who are seen as belonging to one's own group, while them refers to those who are viewed as different. Humans naturally seek belonging and identity. However, problems arise when differences are used to justify unequal treatment or negative assumptions about others. When people focus too much on distinctions between groups, prejudice and discrimination become more likely to occur. Next slide, please. This concept can also be observed in the Filipino context. Please click and then click. So, you viewers, would please return to the previous slide. So, you viewers, what games do you prefer, Mobile Legends or Roblox? Now, choosing your preference within these online games can already create an us versus them concept. Next, please. In the Philippines, people sometimes experience discrimination based on skin color, ethnicity, social class, language, religion, or regional identity. Now, there are a lot in the Philippines that I cannot even name or count them all with my fingers. There could be example Muslims versus Christianity, Bisaya versus Tagalog, taga-probinsya versus taga-cities. So stereotypes about certain groups are often repeated in conversations, media, and even jokes. Although these stereotypes may sometimes be dismissed as harmless, they can influence how people view and treat others. When stereotypes are repeated often enough, they become normalized. As a result, discrimination may continue without people fully recognizing its effect. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So here you could see this is a match that I had in ML saying that just because of a bad pick of a hero, they called the player Bisaya. Because if you're Bisaya raw, then your gameplay in ML is bad. Next, please. So we will be discussing the types of racism. Next, please. Closely related to these concepts are ethnocentrism and xenocentrism. So, ethnocentrism is a belief that one's own culture is superior to others, while xeno is the opposite. This belief that other cultures are superior to one's own. Both ethnocentrism and xenocentrism influence how people understand cultural differences and interact with others. Next, please. Another important concept is conformity. So conformity refers to changing one's behavior, attitudes, or beliefs in order to fit in with a group. People often conform because they want acceptance, approval, or a sense of belonging. So the types of conformity will be discussed by my co-reporters. Next, let us discuss a little discussion about acculturation and cultural assimilation. So acculturation occurs when individuals adapt to another culture while maintaining important aspects of their original culture or identity. Like example, you're leaving to live or into another country. Through acculturation, people can participate in a new society without completely abandoning their heritage. So, for cultural assimilation, on the other hand, it occurs when individuals gradually abandon solely their original culture identity and adapt the culture of the dominant group. Now, understanding the difference between these concepts helps us appreciate the value of cultural diversity and inclusion. Next slide, please. So, the 3 Cs of media literacy. 3 clicks, please. Now, the pun of a joke, this was supposed to be the 3 Cs of famous Cs found in the Philippines. Next, please. So the real 3 Cs of media literacy: creative, critical, and cultural, which will be discussed further by my co-reporters. Next, please. Next, please. So this is a film created by students in Greek. Can also be further discussed by my co-reporters. Next, please. Next, please. Do you think people sometimes judge others without truly understanding the root of who they are and where? The article then encouraged us to reflect on an important idea. People are often judged without others truly understanding who they are and or where they come from. Individuals may be evaluated based on appearance, language, nationality, religion, or cultural background before their personal experiences and identities are considered. This lack of understanding often becomes the foundation of prejudice. Next, please. The article also asks us to consider whether small biases can grow into larger problems, such as intolerance and extremism. The answer is yes. Biases often begin as small assumptions, stereotypes, or jokes. At first, they may seem harmless. However, when these attitudes are repeated and accepted, they become normalized. Over time, they can influence behavior, shape public opinion, and contribute to discrimination. Small biases can eventually develop into exclusion, hostility, hate speech, and even extremist beliefs if they are left unchallenged. Next, please. So this brings us to the context of racism in contemporary Greece. The article explains that several social and political factors contributed to the rise of racism in Greece. The first factor is the severe economic crisis. Next slide, please. Greece experienced one of the most significant economic crises in modern European history. Business closed, public services were affected, and many families faced financial difficulties. Economic hardship created fear and uncertainty throughout society. When people experience economic insecurity, they often search for explanations and solutions. Unfortunately, some individuals began blaming minority groups and immigrants for the problems that were actually caused by much more complex economic factors. Next, please. The second factor is high unemployment. The economic crisis led to widespread unemployment, especially among young people. Many citizens struggled to find work or maintain financial stability. As competition for jobs increased, some people began viewing immigrants as competitors rather than fellow members of society. Even when there was little evidence supporting these fears, resentment toward immigrant communities increased. Next, please. The third factor is increased immigration and refugee flows. Due to its geographic location, Greece became an important entry point for migrants and refugees entering Europe. Many people arrived seeking safety from war, conflict, persecution, and poverty. While many Greeks welcomed and assisted these individuals, others viewed the increasing number of newcomers with suspicion. Differences in language, religion, culture, and customs sometimes led to misunderstanding and social tensions. Rather than learning about the experiences of migrants and refugees, some individuals relied on stereotypes and misinformation, contributing to the spread of prejudice and discrimination. Next slide, please. The fourth factor is political instability. Periods of political uncertainty often create opportunities for extreme viewpoints to gain attention. During times of instability, some political groups promoted anti-immigrant messages and encouraged people to blame immigrants for national problems. These messages reinforced division and strengthened the us versus them mentality that we discussed earlier. When all four factors are considered together, the economic crisis, high unemployment, increased immigration and refugee flows, and political instability. Next slide, please. We can better understand why racism became a growing concern in contemporary Greece. However, it is important to remember that difficult circumstances do not justify racism. Economic challenges, political disagreements, and social change should never be used as reasons to discriminate against others. This is why media literacy is so important. By thinking critically, questioning stereotypes, and evaluating information carefully, people can resist prejudice and make more informed decisions. Ultimately, this lesson reminds us that racism is not simply an individual problem. It's influenced by social conditions, media messages, cultural attitudes, and political environments. However, education, awareness, empathy, and critical thinking can help prevent discrimination and promote respect for human rights. So, the next reporter, Aaliyah Vinas, will discuss more further on with the us versus them concept.
So thank you, Shia, for reporting your part. And as we go further, let us discuss more. So please present to the next, please. Us versus them. Racism is based on perceived superiority, which is us, versus inferiority, which is them. Basically, showcasing what Shia said is that we, as an example, are superior to them because we think of them differently, because we think that we're more better with culture and life or overall experience than them, because we think that they are uneducated or did not have any much experience or don't the things that we have as our superior ones. Next, please. Us, the dominant group, are seen as superior, exercise and marginalized by others. We benefit that the other group does not have. Even though that we are the dominant group and dominating other groups, we still are the ones that are basically starting all, since we are like the ones basically saying that we're different from them and we are the ones more superior to them. Next, please. Them, the dominated group, they are seen as inferior, treated as a threat, labeled as dangerous or harmful. Just like in Greece, whenever they seen a traveler or whenever they see a traveler or a random people from outside, they treat them as different. They treat them as filthy or as dangerous. That's why they think of themselves as superior. This can be included to ours. Whenever we see different type of people from different nations with their different culture, we see them as different. They might be hostile or they might be uneducated or literally just seen looked down upon them. And we think of ourselves as more superior to them or more greatly intelligent towards them. Next, please. Racism beliefs and actions are common in Greek school. Xenophobia and racism fuels school violence. So xenophobia literally means treating one others differently, thinking that you are the superior ones based just because they have different cultures, beliefs, and life status. Next, please. Examples, the first is verbal and non-verbal abuse. Next. First is contemptuous look. This literally means whenever you see someone is different and you think that you're superior to them, most of the time, whenever they don't have words, they just give off the looks, which in like a disgusted look, stating that, why do you look different, or why is he here, something like that type of look, which is very disrespectful, especially not knowing someone first, or literally knowing them truly or fully yet. So, moving on to the next, which then being beaten by others just because they look different. Not big deal. Okay. Which cause physical aggression, because there are some other schools that don't take this lightly and just think that truly others are different, and they might think that they are superior to themselves, which cause physical aggressions, as we can see from examples from online. There are other like media's examples a lot, especially online, especially the rising of racism back then, and even now it has not fully been exterminated. You cannot avoid racism, but even though if you cannot avoid it, this can cause physical aggression because people value their own rights, thinking that everyone is equal, and the others think that they are not equal and think that they are more superior towards them. Next, please. While this us versus them mindset is visible in the contemporary Greece, similar patterns of discrimination, prejudice, and worldwide, including the Philippines. They don't accept you, which is the Afro-Greek struggles to be seen. Next, please. As you can see here from a video, okay, as seen from the video, it is seen that a conductor of the jeep is asking the passengers, which these two types or these specific two individuals are asked to be step off of the jeep because they are treated as different, because these types of people are called the badgels. Even though the badgels said that they are going to pay and we are also humans like you, that which is like normal to them, and like basically like asking for equality, the conductor insists them to please step off of the jeep because they are treated as different, they're treated as dangerous or uneducated or different type of people. Next, please. What is the most common form of racism in the Philippines? Next. And which minority groups might suffer from discrimination? In this, today we're going to find out which are and what are the discrimination and minority groups that might suffer from discrimination. Next, please. First is the minorities, which is the indigenous group, like I said, like the natives. Next is religious minorities. What do you think of religious minorities? Examples of this are Christians and Muslims treating each other differently because based on their religions. Next, please. Immigrants. Another are immigrants. They are also treated differently because they came from a different country, believing in different cultures, and believing that they are different. And for the next is racial minorities, like stereotypes and like the one that we seen earlier, the nonverbal and verbal types of discrimination. Next. And people of color, we think of ourselves that the whiter we are, the more superior we are, or the more rights we have, or like the more like normal we are. Even though that we are all humans being at the end and treated as the same people, people don't follow that truly because they think that the whiter you are or the more skin tone you have, you are different or you can be a person that have benefits. Next, please. Colorism. Filipino on Filipino racism. Now, this right here is very common in the Philippines now, especially like people can compare the skins to anyone, thinking that they are different, they are more cooler, beautiful, or anyways like just a little status up. Colorism preference for lighter skin tones stemming from colonial history often leads to discrimination against those with darker, more indigenous looking skin. Just like for example, when one differentiates a skin to another, saying that, yo, I have more whiter skin than yours. I'm basically more cooler. So it's basically stating that you are more superior to her or to him. Even though this is common in the Philippines, especially in children's on the street, they even differentiate themselves to other children in the street, saying that you're not even that cool, you're not even that pretty because you're black and that you have this type of skin and I have this type of glossy glass skin. Next, please. And another is Filipino on Filipino racism. Regional preference. People show towards the region or province. It's about place and regional pride. As you can see, the Tagalog and Bisaya has always been going on as a war towards stereotypes of the Philippines, stating that we Bisaya people are not educated and the Tagalog people think that we are dumb and not educated, thinking that we are not modernized as them, and they think of us as lowly as they are. Just an example of this, Vice Ganda, which she's seen as a charismatic type of person, and the other is a mature person because she looks Bisaya and her personality is Bisaya. Now, as seen here, that war between Tagalog and Bisaya has always been going on, thinking of superiority, and even the Bisaya people calling them out also for the Tagalog people eating what's so-called pagpag, which is type of food that can be found in the trash cans and then recooked so that it could sustain some people for a cheaper budget meal. And the Tagalog also think of us as a different type of people because they think that we are uneducated and don't have any types of social media, or even if we do have access to social media, they might think of us as ignorant, new to this, or like overall no experience to any social media or whatsoever. So they think of us as low IQ people or uneducated, or think of us as dirty in the same way as they think as in the same way as we think of them. Next, please. Now, Filipino and Filipino racism against indigenous group. Now, it is very unfair or harmful treatment of people because they belong to an indigenous community, often involving prejudice, exclusion, or denial of rights and opportunities. Examples of this are badjaus because we think that badjaus are type of people that won't listen to you if they want to demand. Especially saying that in the example, people like badjau people are sometimes aggressive towards, even though if you might try to make them understand, you cannot make them. So in short, you just have to adjust. Because sometimes there are types of Bajau people that would literally spit or harm you if you do not give them money, which the best you can do is avoid at this point. So that's why we think of them as dangerous and we treat them unfair and we treat them as different because we think of ourselves as normal, even though we even though we try to give advice or like help these Bajau people, but we cannot truly change them, especially that it is their culture, it is who they are. So the best thing we can do is adjust towards them and know and understand them fully. Next, please. Next is religious discrimination. It is the unfair treatment of a person or a group because of their religion or beliefs. For example, Muslims in the Philippines We think of Muslims in the Philippines as terrorists or example of that, or we think of them as dangerous or different type of people just because based on religion. Now, to be honest, Muslims are different. They aren't just specifically like Muslims. There are different type of Muslims. We have the Maranao, the common like business type of Muslim, Tausug, like the strong and brave type of Muslims, and the Bajau, which is the lowest bracket of Muslims. Even the Muslims themselves do not accept the Bajau because of who they are. And even we don't and even we people don't accept some of the Muslims because we think of them as that, we think of them as terrorists, we think of them as any type of stereotypical words that would harm them or literally hate on them just because they are based off different religions and they are not one of us. Next, please. So how do these beliefs develop? These beliefs develop thinking is that we're more superior to them because we think that one's group is more higher up in status or superiority, thinking that we are more educated, more gifted, more nutrient, or more nurtured as one individual group, while thinking of the other group being different because they don't have the same traits, same discipline, same mindset, or same status in life. We think of them as different. So that's why these beliefs develop because we think of superiority, which is us versus them. Moving on to the next. So this right here will be explained by Miss Francis. My part of discussion that will be all, and thank you all for listening.
So, thank you. So, to better understand why discrimination occurs, we must examine how people perceive their own culture in relation to others, often seeing it as superior, which can lead to bias, misunderstanding, and unequal treatment. After understanding how people compare their own culture to others, we can now look at two important concepts: ethnocentrism and xenocentrism. Next, please. So, good day everyone. I am Princess Rianne Apao, and today I am here to share and explain the ideas of ethnocentrism and xenocentrism. Through this discussion, we will be better understand how people view different cultures, beliefs, traditions, and perspectives in our society. And why respecting cultural differences is important in building understanding and unity among people. Let us first tackle ethnocentrism. Next slide, please. So, ethnocentrism is the belief that one's own culture, traditions, or way of life is superior compared to others. Because of this mindset, people may judge other culture based on their own standards and perspectives. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at this photo. What does it reveal about ethnocentrism? This photo shows two women from different cultures walking past each other, and both are judging the other's way of dressing. The woman wearing revealing clothes believes that covering the whole body is a form of oppression. She thinks that the covered woman is being forced to hide her body and is not given the freedom to express herself. This shows ethnocentrism because she judges the other culture based on her own beliefs and understanding without considering the cultural or personal reasons behind it. Oppression is judging without understanding each other cultures. On the other hand, the woman wearing fully covering clothes believes that showing too much skin is also a form of oppression. She thinks that the other woman is being pressured by the society to expose herself and her body to follow certain expectations. This also reflects ethnocentrism because she views others woman way of dressing through the lens of her own cultures and values. In conclusion, this photo shows how ethnocentrism can cause people to judge other cultures based on their own based on their own culture, beliefs, and perspectives. Instead of understanding one another, both women quickly assumed that the other was being oppressed. This reminds us that cultural differences should not immediately be judged, but rather understood with respect, openness, and empathy. Now, next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Now, let me ask you guys, who among you would wear two-piece swimsuit or who would be more comfortable wearing a rash guard instead? As we can see, we all have different preferences, comfort levels, beliefs, and reasons for the way we dress. And that's completely normal. The problem only starts when we judge others simply because their choices are different from ours. Just like this example. This photo shows a woman wearing two-piece and the other woman wearing rash guard. Many of us are quick to judge people by simply because they are different from us. Some might say that the girl wearing a two-piece only dresses that way to catch the attention of men, while others may think that the girl wearing a rash guard is too conservative or afraid to show her body. Just like our first example, both sides are judging because of their own culture, beliefs, and standard without fully understanding the other person's reasons, comfort, culture, or preferences. This is an example of ethnocentrism. Will people see their own perspective as right one and criticize those who are in different situation? This reminds us that not everything should be judged immediately. People have different values, experience, and way of expressing themselves. And these differences should be respected rather than criticized. Next, please.
This is my ever since my life. Why can't this person just clean his pot with water and at least wear a glove because no one is going to buy that? Is it true that all Indian food is like this? If it is true, I am probably never going to visit this country in my life because I might get diarrhea with just one bite of India's street food. Also, how is there even peoples in India buying this food? Are their stomach immune to bacteria, or are they just used to getting diarrhea every single day?
Just like this video in India, we can see street food vendors making juices using their bare hands, and for some people, it may seem unhygienic or unusual because of the environment around them. Many quickly judge and criticize their way of preparing food based on their own standards of cleanliness and culture. This is another example of ethnocentrism, where people see their own practices as better without first understanding their traditions, lifestyle, or situations of others. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. Next slide, please. I want you guys to watch this video.
What if? Refrigerator. Scissors. Seesaw.
So, next slide, please. But wait, hold up first. Let me ask you guys, who among you has ever been corrected because of your pronunciation or the way you speak your language? Sometimes, people quickly judge others because of their accent, pronunciation, or the way they speak, simply because it sounds different from what they are used to. This is also an example of ethnocentrism, where people assume that their own way of speaking is more correct or better than others. Next slide, please. That is what we call language prestige. The idea that some way of speaking are viewed as better, more educated, or having a higher social status than others. Because of this, people sometimes judge or look down on those who speak differently, even though Every language and accent deserves respect. In conclusion, ethnocentrism ethnocentrism happens when people view their own culture, beliefs, traditions, or way of living as superior to others. Because of this mindset, people may easily judge, criticize, or misunderstand those who are different from them, whether in clothing, language, food, or lifestyle. Instead of immediately judging others, we should learn to understand and respect cultural differences with openness and empathy. But remember, ethnocentrism is different from xenocentrism. Ethnocentrism focuses on believing that one's own culture is better, while xenocentrism is the opposite, where people see other culture as superior to their own. Next slide, please. Okay, then. And now, next pa please. And now let us move on and discover what xenocentrism is all about. Next. Next slide, please. But first, how about we play a short game before we move on? This game is called Would You Rather Buy? I'll mention two products or brands and you simply choose which one you would rather buy or prefer. Okay, next slide please. Would you rather buy Isis Cosmetic or Maybelline? Or maybe, next slide please. Or maybe Unmeet or Spam? My phone or iPhone? World Balance or Nike? Okay, next. Or maybe Bench or Victoria's Secret? And lastly, Achara or Kimchi? Most of us naturally choose products or brands that we think are more popular, higher quality or value, or more socially accepted. And sometimes we tend to favor foreign products over our own local ones, which connect to the idea of xenocentrism. Did you know that those examples and choices you just saw are actually connected to xenocentrism? Yes, absolutely. Xenocentrism. Xenocentrism is the belief that other cultures, products, or way of life are better than our own. In simple terms, people tend to admire and prefer foreign product things more than their own culture or products. That is why many people sometimes choose international brands, foreign trends, or other cultures because they see them as more modern, superior, or more valuable than their own. Now, xenocentrism has its advantages and disadvantages. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. One advantages is that it allows people to appreciate and learn from other cultures. It can help us become more open-minded, adaptable, and accepting new ideas, products, traditions, and lifestyle from different parts of the world. However, xenocentrism has also disadvantages. Sometimes, people admire foreign products too much that they begin to look down on their own cultures, products, language, or traditions. Instead of appreciating local identity, they may believe that anything foreign is automatically better. That is why balance is important. We can appreciate other culture without forgetting the value of our own. Next slide, please. In conclusion, xenocentrism is the belief that other cultures, product, or way of life are better than one's own. It can help people become more open-minded and appreciate of different cultures, but it can also lead people to underestimate the value of their own identity, traditions, and local products. As we appreciate the beauty of other cultures, we should also learn to value and take pride in our own. Because at the end of the day, every culture has something unique and meaningful to offer. And unlike ethnocentrism, which places one's own culture above others, xenocentrism does the opposite. It placed other cultures above our own. Overall, our discussion taught us that both Ethnocentrism and xenocentrism influence the way people view cultures, traditions, product, language, and lifestyle. Ethnocentrism happens when people believe that their own culture is superior, while xenocentrism happens when people see their own culture as better than the others. Through the example we discussed, from clothing, language, food, brands, and personal preferences, we realize that people often judge others based on their own beliefs and standards. These mindsets can affect how we treat and understand one another in our society. Therefore, instead of quickly judging differences, we should learn to become more open-minded, respectful, and appreciate of every culture, including our own. Because in the end, cultural diversity should unite people, not divide them. Once again, I am Francisca and Piapo, and that concludes our discussion about ethnocentrism and xenocentrism. I hope this presentation helped us realize the importance of understanding, respecting, and appreciating different cultures and perspectives in our society. Let us always remember that cultural differences should not divide us, but instead help us learn from one another and grow as more open-minded and respectful community. And now, to continue our discussion, let me present to you Ms. Marchelle Barde for the next presentation. Thank you everyone for listening and have a great day ahead.
So thank you, Miss Apao, for presenting that. Next slide, please. Now I will be presenting my part. So, how do these beliefs develop? Now that we've discussed ethnocentrism and xenocentrism, the next question is, how do these beliefs develop and continue to influence people's behavior? One explanation is conformity. Next slide. Next slide, please. The tendency to adjust our beliefs, attitudes, or actions to match those of a group. So, conformity is the act of aligning attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors with group norms to fit in the normative influence or to be correct in the informational influence. So, while conformity can help create social harmony, it can also cause people to adopt stereotypes or prejudices without questioning them. And that leads us to, next slide please, compliance.
Here. This map is going to be your guide to North Shore. Now,
Next slide, please.
Is crucial because you got everybody there. You got your freshmen, boxy guys, preps, JV jocks, Asian nerds, cool Asians, varsity jocks, unfriendly black hotties, girls who don't need anything, desperate wannabes, sexually active band geeks, the greatest people you will ever meet, and the worst, beware of the plastic.
As you can see, that was an example of conformity. In the more exaggerated sense in this video, it is like different groups of people who create their own social circles, and as a result of that, it can lead to separation of groups leading into conformity. Next, we have compliance, another form of conformity. This occurs when someone publicly agrees with a group but privately disagrees. For example, a student may laugh at a discriminatory joke because everyone else is laughing, even though they personally think it is wrong. And the second type of conformity is, next slide, identification. This happens when people adopt the behaviors, attitudes, or styles of a group they admire or want to belong to. Next slide. Fans often imitate clothing, language, or habits of celebrities and influencers they look up to. Next slide, please. Lastly, we have internalization, which is sometimes called the deepest form of conformity, since this occurs when a person genuinely accepts a group's beliefs as their own. At this stage, the beliefs are no longer just for appearances, they become a part of person's values and way of thinking. Next slide. How does the need to conform affect marginalized groups? So, how does the pressure to conform affect minority or marginalized groups? Next slide. In many societies, people from minority groups may feel the pressure to adapt to the dominant culture in order to gain acceptance, avoid discrimination, or improve opportunities. That brings us to next slide. Cultural assimilation. The cultural assimilation is a process where individuals gradually abandon aspects of their original culture and fully adopt the dominant culture, like in the picture seen in the PPT. It is often described as a subtractive process because elements of one original identity may be lost. For example, an immigrant family may stop speaking their native language because they believe it will help them fit in better with the larger society. And in this example here, a cultural assimilation is basically changing or forgetting, removing one's culture to adapt to the new modern society. Next slide, please. This is why many scholars view assimilation as a complex process with both advantages and disadvantages, because minority groups adopt aspects of a dominant culture in order to integrate into society. Next slide. In contrast, we have acculturation, which is an additive process. Rather than replacing one culture with another, individuals may adopt aspects of a new culture while still maintaining their original cultural identity. Next slide. We have examples of acculturation, like uniforms. Uniforms didn't originate from here. So since we kind of just adapted it from other countries. Next example, we have right K-pop groups, K-pop dancing to like J-pop, any other kind of songs. That's an example of acculturation. Next slide. Next slide, please. Another example. A family from Japan living in the United States begin eating Western made meals and participating in American traditions, while still preparing Japanese food and celebrating Japanese holidays. Instead of choosing one culture over the other, they combine both. Next slide, please. Another example could also be maintaining traditional eating practices, such as using chopsticks or eating with one's hands, while adapting to the customs of the surrounding culture. So, this shows that cultural adaptation does not necessarily require cultural loss. Next slide. Acculturation can also occur through media. A person may enjoy foreign films, music, and television while continuing to appreciate local environment and tradition. entertainment, and traditions. This allows people to expand their experiences while preserving their cultural identity. But, next slide, how do these develops how do these beliefs and ideas continue to persist in this day and age? Next slide. Now that we understand conformity, assimilation, and acculturation, we can ask another important question. Why do these beliefs continue to persist today? One major reason is the rapid spread of information through media. We are constantly exposed to messages, opinions, and content from television, social media, news outlets, and online platforms. Next, because information moves so quickly, people often consume content without taking time to analyze it critically. Instead of questioning what they see, many people simply scroll, watch, and then move on. And this is how people can be quickly radicalized. Next slide. When stereotypes, misinformation, or biased messages are repeated often enough, they can begin to feel normal or true. Social media algorithms can also create echo chambers where people are repeatedly exposed to the same viewpoints, reinforcing existing beliefs and making it harder to consider an alternate perspectives. So next slide. How exactly do we help with this? So one solution is, of course, media literacy, and also encouraging audiovisual education. By learning how to analyze media messages, recognize bias, and evaluate information critically, individuals become less likely to accept stereotypes and misinformation without question. Media literacy helps people become more informed, responsible, and open minded participants in society. And that's what leads us to next slide. The goals were understanding access, production stages, and creation. Next slide. And reduce widespread discrimination and audiovisual illiteracy. Next, please. And that leads us to media literacy and racism, the three C's of media literacy. So thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Marchelle A. Barde, and we will be moving on to the next speaker. So, as we have seen throughout this presentation, racism and discrimination are not simply individual attitudes. They are shaped by social, cultural, and media influences. The us versus them mindset can develop through ethnocentrism, conformity, and the pressure to fit into dominant groups, often leading to the exclusion of those who are seen as different. We also learned that while cultural assimilation may require individuals to give up parts of their identity, acculturation allows people to embrace new cultures while still preserving their own. These processes remind us that diversity should not be viewed as a threat, but rather a strength that can help society. And finally, in the case of racism in Greek schools, And the film that we analyzed shows that prejudice and inequality continue to exist in many forms. However, they also demonstrate that education and media can be powerful tools for promoting understanding, empathy, and inclusion. Ultimately, overcoming racism begins with recognizing our biases, questioning harmful stereotypes, and choosing to see others not as them, but as fellow human beings deserving of dignity, respect, and equal opportunities. So, thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Marchelle A. Barde, and I hope you learned something from our presentation.